Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about proposal, how you can write a good proposal. A proposal, similar to any other written document, doesn't have one specific style, so you can adopt so many different styles or structures, but there are a few main components that should be included. So here in this presentation I'm going to talk about those important items and key components. This table is important because it helps us to find out what is the key and should be addressed in the proposal. So the first important thing is the title page. You need to insert all required information in the title page, and it should be clear enough, and your research topic should be mentioned on this specific page. Then you need to insert the table of contents. This is important because the reviewer will get an idea about the content of your work, what are included and in what pages. The next component is the introduction. Introduction is very important because you will talk about your problem, the problem you're going to solve, motivation, and you will present some background information about your specific topic and the context of your study, and also the research aim and objectives should be clarified, and also you can insert your research questions. So all of them are the most important part of the proposal, and all of them should be clarified in the introduction. Here you can talk about the significance of the work, why it is important, and why you're going to address this problem, how big is this problem, but try to make it more fact-based rather than descriptive. So it's not something you think it's a problem, it's a fact. You need to talk about a fact. You can cite different industry reports or government reports or any other reliable document and clarify what is the current challenge, what is an urgent problem should be resolved, and all of them should be linked to a specific statistics or a specific description of an event and or a problem or an issue in the community or your research field. So this introduction will help us to have a direction and then start our literature review. So now that's time to start the literature review in the next section. The literature review is one of the key components of the research proposal because you will show that you understand the literature of that specific field, and you can find out so many relevant works that you can learn from them. And the most important purpose of the literature review section is to identify and analyze the research gap. You need to show no one else has done it before, or if they have done something similar, their direction is a little bit different. So whatever you are going to do has a certain level of novelty, can be very novel, but it can be like a smaller gap because you are doing a short research project, for example. So it's not going to be a broad or like a big gap in the literature, but still it's something that has been ignored by others to be done. But remember, if you say no one else has done it, in the next sentence you should say it was important enough, but at the same time this important topic or subtopic has been ignored. Otherwise you people will ask you, this topic wasn't important, that's why no one else has done it, and that's why it's a gap. And the literature review will help you to come up with a set of hypotheses. So these hypotheses can be listed at the end of your literature review, or can be a part of the next section as well. The next section is about conceptual framework, and this section is sort of the skeleton of your research proposal, because this is very important and it will link previous sections to the following sections. Your research method in the following section will be based on this framework. But what is the conceptual framework, and what is a theory or theoretical framework? A theory or theoretical framework is something has been already developed and you can find it in the literature. So it should be a highly cited paper or document explaining a specific theory. So in each field relevant to your topic, or any topic that you can choose, there should be a specific theory, a reliable theory, and you need to find that theory and talk about that theory, learn from that theory, and then based on that specific theory, or maybe two theories or one theory, you can learn from both of them and then develop your conceptual framework. And the conceptual framework is something that is gonna be the base of your research project. So the conceptual framework includes a set of variables, constructs, factors, and also hypotheses. And the hypothesis can be the relationship between two different factors or two different constructs of that specific framework. So all of them should be clarified in this section. The next section is method and feasibility. The method is based on your research framework, because the framework should be tested now. Framework is something that you proposed and you created based on a theory or different theories, and right now that's time to say how you want to test it, how you want to evaluate that conceptual framework. This section should justify your method as well. You would say how you are going to do this research, how you are going to achieve your objectives, how you are going to test your conceptual framework. It's all about how. And then you need to justify that specific chosen method. If you say I'm going to use this specific method like factor analysis, or I'm going to conduct a survey using a specific analysis method, or I'm going to interview people, then you need to justify why this method is the best option, and there is no better ways to do that. That justification is required. Of course, you need to give an idea about your data set, the size of the data set, sampling methods, ethics approval, and analysis method, and all relevant concepts to your method. This section, as I said, is justification, different than the literature review section, because in the literature review section you are going to critique other works. You are going to say what are the limitations of other works, and there is a gap, and you are going to fill the gap or address the gap. But in this section, it's not critique, it's more justification. You need to say how you are going to conduct this study, test your hypothesis, and why this method is an appropriate method. Then you can draft your expected output and the significance of it, and also your implications. theoretical or practical implications. Who is going to use your output and results, and why, and how important is it, and how your output can help them to solve a specific problem in the community. Or if, for example, if you have a tool, if you are going to offer a tool, a model or something specific, who is going to use it, and what is the practical implications, what is the theoretical implications of that specific tool. Then you need to insert your research timeline and possibly update it, because based on this proposal you will get more ideas about your tasks, and your research timeline is going to be more detailed because you would add more tasks into your Gantt chart. The next section is referencing. Referencing is very important in research projects. It's not only citing a paper and saying who says that, it's about supporting your argument by other works, and the citation should be appropriate. So it means it should be reliable enough. You can't cite anything available on internet. You need to find relevant works, at the same time reliable works as well. So you need to double check the publisher, how good is it, and also the journal itself, how good is the journal. In terms of formatting, EndNote or any similar tools can be any other similar tools can be helpful for citation, because then you wouldn't be worried about formatting and also the number of papers you are going to cite and all of them will be appeared in the reference list automatically. And the style of referencing can be adjusted by EndNote easily. So you can pick a specific style like Harvard, and that can be used by EndNote automatically. However, you need to make sure that the references are listed appropriately, because sometimes EndNote gives a funny output for a specific reference, and then you say that a specific reference is not completed and some of the required information are not listed. So this is something you can review your final list at the end when you completed your proposal. In terms of plagiarism, you need to attach the relevant form as well. When you draft the proposal, then you would think that whatever you have done is very good and is completed, but there are common mistakes that I'm going to talk about some of them here. So one of them is the topic itself. Again, you need to double check if your topic is too broad, or are you ambitious on this project, and if the topic is not really specific, you need to clarify the topic, revise the topic. Sometimes your topic refers to a problem, refers to something a bit broad, like a smart transportation, a smart cities. These kind of topics can be useful for a talk, can be useful for a course, but these topics are not really relevant to a research project, or they're not really specific. Sometimes it's too complex. So for example, like a student going to do a short-term research project, the topic shouldn't be very complex, and it's not like the research is not a part of a bigger research method in NASA, or it's not a part of a rocket science project. So the complexity of the topic shouldn't be high. The second mistake can be about the relevance of different components of the research project. For example, the objective of the project is not relevant to the problem, or is not relevant to research questions. So you make a list of objectives, but they are different than your research questions. So in the research question section, you are talking about different questions which are not a part of your aim. So you need to make sure that your objectives, problems, and research questions, all of them are pointing to the same thing and they are related to each other. The next issue is the research questions and objectives in terms of the next issue is sometimes objectives, they overlap and they partially cover each other, so they are not really unique or different. And the same thing for research questions. So you need to double check all of objectives and research questions are really different, and when you put all together, it's gonna be one story and going to solve one problem or a specific problem. The other mistake is about the literature review. So why the literature review is poor? Because you use many outdated references, or some of them are not relevant, some of them are not reliable, and also your draft is not critical, and at the end you can't clarify the gap. So this kind of literature reviews are not really good enough to be considered for a research proposal. Literature review doesn't need to be long, but it should be very clear, concise, and critical. Your literature review will help you to draft your conceptual framework later. Another common mistake is about your writing style as well. Some of the students, they fail to present a coherent and persuasive argument. So you need to read your written proposal a few times to make sure that it's coherent enough. Another mistake can be related to your conceptual framework. This section is very important in terms of the content as well, and here is almost the first part of the proposal that you are going to create or develop something by yourself, and you are going to propose a framework. You are going to develop a framework. So the framework is something you develop. So this is based on whatever you drafted before, you learned from the literature review, but now it's going to be something new, novel, and going to help you to address the problem. So from section 6 onwards, you are talking about something which is your own product. But before section 6, particularly the item number 4 is something that you are going to read other people's work, and it's not really your work, you just critique them, but the idea itself has been already published in a different document. So that's the difference between, for example, item number 4 and item number 6. Some of students, they fail to clarify the theoretical and empirical contributions of their work as well, and then clarity and details of the level of details provided uh, in the proposal is very important, because sometimes it's too detailed and the reader will get lost, but sometimes it's very broad and general and the reader cannot get the point what you are going to do exactly. Another issue is about your method. Your method should be clear, appropriate, and relevant. As I said, sometimes you have a method chosen by you, but it's not really relevant to your work and it's not going to solve the problem. And you mentioned a couple of measurements. Sometimes you mention a specific tool, a specific analysis method, but it's not really relevant to your framework, and you can't test your framework based on this method, and the method is not really appropriate. And the last item is formatting issues and writing issues. So you need to make sure that whatever you are writing is clear enough. Don't use we, because it's your own work and it's not we, and you need to use passive words or passive style to describe things or write things. And of course this depends on the program itself, but usually it's accepted that the writing style should be passive. And some of the students, they copy or paste ideas or copy or paste some of sentences, and they have typos in their proposal as well. So make sure that your writing is clear and appropriate, and in terms of formatting and the layout is also good. Thank you for watching this video.